Gentlelady yields. So the issue of, Director Stone Manning, the issue of FLIPMA has come up a couple times. Mm-hmm. And you're familiar with the coordination requirement in FLIPMA, right? Mm-hmm. You know how it's much different than, we hear the terms collaborate, things like that. Coordination is much different, isn't it?
Our cooperating agencies help make our work better.
But coordination, that term, is clearly defined and is much different than like just cooperating or collaborating. Isn't that correct?
Congressman, I don't think I know where you're going with this question.
Well, I'd go in this direction. So we heard from the gentleman from Guam how his constituents were not heard, that they were not included in the process. He expressed concern, and he was very mild about it and respectful, but it was clear he was saying that on the issue he had in the Mariana Islands that they were not being heard. We heard from the gentleman from Utah, not a single hearing in regards to Bears Ears, is that correct?
Congressman, regarding the gentleman from Guam, we don't manage lands on Guam. Regarding the gentleman from Utah, we held public meetings all over the West in capital cities that were easy to get to. We also held meetings online, virtually, so that people can participate from their homes.
Did you coordinate with the local municipalities?
Congressman, we work very closely with the state of Utah.
You coordinated, treated them as an equal at the table when you were doing the process. Is that what you're saying? Because coordination is a very specific item within FLIPMA that you must sit down and work with local governments, local and state governments, as equals. Did you treat them as equals?
On the Bears, I think he was referring to the Bears Ears plan and the Grand Staircase plan, and we do work with local entities to take their concerns into consideration. On the public lands rule itself, we did that work with easily 100 staffers at the Bureau whose job it is to implement and manage on the ground.
Did you fully coordinate with the governing entities in Utah, including local governments?
On the public lands rule, no, we did not. They did have a chance between draft and final, however, during a 90-day public period.
Thank you for letting us know that you did not coordinate because it is a different process than simply a hearing. I'm going to go to some testimony from Secretary Holland from a couple of weeks ago, and it had to do with the National Petroleum Reserve in Alaska, their regulation. Didn't the tribes up there ask for an extension on the provision that you folks put in place? Didn't they ask for an extension, and weren't they denied?
Congressman, we granted 2 extensions in the public comment period for the NPRA rule.
So the tribes are lying to us, saying that they did not get the extension, because that's what they told us. They did not get an extension in a hearing here before the Natural Resources Committee.
Congressman, I can't speak for the tribes. What I can tell you is we extended the public comment period twice.
So a BLM employee said, I wish we could give an extension. In other contexts, we might have that kind of time, but I'm happy to regale you with the ins and outs of the Congressional Review Act, but unfortunately we're on a schedule with this one that we don't have any control over. So we just don't have that kind of time for this rule as a result of denying the extension. Did you instruct your employee to say that?
Congressman, I did not instruct that colleague to say that. I can tell you that we met.
Is that employee still working for the Bureau of Land Management after making a statement like that?
Congressman, she doesn't work for the Bureau.
Did you issue any sort of directive in regards to this, whether it's formal or informal, to say that we're going to get you around the Congressional Review Act by doing this in such a manner? Did you issue any directives?
Congressman, we worked very hard on this rule and many others, and the timing is what the timing was. We've worked for the last 2.5 or 3 years on these rules, and here we are. And as you know, I don't know what the deadline is for the Congressional Review Act because it moves every year, right?
By the way, I was just handed a note. The tribe asked for 90 days. They got 30. So we hear all this happy talk from the administration, and we heard it from you today also, in regards to we are so serious about working with the tribal interests around the country. We believe in nation-to-nation collaboration and things like that. But you didn't do that in Alaska. You didn't take into account their requests. Does this administration only work with the tribes when it serves your interests and not necessarily the tribe's interests?
Congressman, I am so proud to work under the historic leadership of Secretary Holland. We engage with tribes at the department like we never have in our history. By my count, we met with folks on the North Slope 17 times. Then we had 3 public meetings on top of that. And so we listened very hard to what they say, and the final rule that we promulgated recently incorporates in part what we heard from them.
And you would not give them the extension that they wished for. A tribal interest in Alaska asked for a 90-day extension, and you did not, the Bureau of Land Management did not give that to them. Isn't that correct?
What we were able to do is continue in government-to-government tribal consultation, which is not dictated by a public comment period. So the public comment period shut down, but the government-to-government consultation continued.
You have a long history of anti-natural resource utilization in this country, both private and in public. It certainly appears that you are continuing that in your role as the director at the Bureau of Land Management. And it's terribly unfortunate for the American people that we continue to see these types of actions that are leading to what is harming the American people at this point with inflation, higher energy prices, the denial of energy projects, and the anti-natural resources utilization mentality that exists with this administration. We see it all over the country. Americans see it all over the country. And you can deny it if you wish to, but that's not the case.
Congressman, what I am proud of is that 10,000 people who work for the BLM that I have the honor of overseeing created $232 billion in economic output last year. It's remarkable work.
And those 10,000 people are harming 300 million in the United States of America. I'd like to thank both the witnesses for your testimony and members for your questions. Members of the subcommittee may have some additional questions for our witnesses today, and we will ask that the witnesses respond to those in writing. Under Committee Rule 3, members of the subcommittee must submit questions to the subcommittee clerk by 5 p.m. on Monday, May 20th, 2024. The hearing record will be held open for 10 business days for those responses. If there is no further business, without objection, the Subcommittee on Federal Lands stands adjourned.